Imagine a land where survival depends on forces you cannot control. Crops fail, rivers dry, storms appear without warning. And above it all looms a force both cruel and necessary, a storm that can kill or sustain life. That force is Baal. And from the very first moment humans sought his favor, a dance of fear and hope began. But before we follow that dance, consider this. Archaeologists have uncovered inscriptions that suggest Baal's worship was more than religious, it was survival itself. Entire communities, entire economies, entire lifetimes revolved around the proper performance of his rituals. Get a step wrong, and famine could follow. Get it right, and the land would flourish. That is the immediate reality. That is the first piece of truth. So, when we say Baal disappeared, we do not speak of a god dying. We speak of humans adapting, of rituals mutating, of memory persisting quietly, invisibly, in the folds of time. In the ancient Levant, the sky was not just weather. It was life. Rain was life. Drought was death. And Baal was the face of that life, the master of storms, the lord of cycles. He was both giver and taker, protector and antagonist. Humanity, fragile and desperate, seeks order. The storm, unpredictable and lethal, resists. Rituals formed the bridge between them. Communities would gather in temples or open fields. Grain, livestock, and crafted icons were offered. Prayers were intoned in precise rhythms designed to cool the storm, to please the unseen force. Long processions mirrored the rise and fall of winds. Festivals lasted days, each step a test. One misstep could invite catastrophe. The precision of these rituals was staggering. Every chant, every gesture carried consequence. They were not symbolic games. They were the law of survival. And through them, humans learned fear, respect, and the price of disobedience. Ancient demonologists describe a figure both unsettling and sovereign. Baal appears as a triform entity, three heads rising from one body, each revealing a different truth of fear. The central human face is stern and unmoved, crowned with a twisted headdress that recalls forgotten royalty. To one side, the cat's head watches with narrow, nocturnal focus, its gaze sharp as hidden blades. On the other, the toad's swollen features speak of decay and slow, inevitable change. Clawed limbs clutch a dark sigil, a symbol of command over forces unseen. Every detail carries meaning. The human visage his authority, the cat his cunning, the toad his power of corruption. To behold him in carved wood or aged stone is to witness dread and fascination, entwined the same duality that defined those who studied him, knowing that some powers cannot be appeased, only acknowledged. Those who beheld this form felt its weight linger long after the image faded, a presence that pressed on thought and breath alike. It was from this fear and fascination that Baal's earliest cults took shape, drawn to the power they believed flowed through every facet of his form. Baal's cults were widespread. Every city-state adapted him to local conditions, creating variations on a common theme. Temples were built with attention to the cycles of storms and harvests. Priests were more than spiritual leaders. They were advisors, record-keepers, and custodians of knowledge essential for life itself. Humans never truly confronted Baal. They learned from him. Every failed harvest reinforced obedience. Every lightning strike, every flood, every drought became a lesson. And from those lessons emerged ritual, structure, hierarchy. Fear itself became the teacher, instilling devotion. The god did not need to act maliciously. The mere possibility of his anger was enough. Humanity's survival depended not on understanding, but on compliance. Compliance, over generations, ingrains itself into behavior, memory, and culture. Even after temples fell and public worship faded, the echo of Baal persisted. The cults that had once commanded entire city-states did not vanish overnight. They adapted, folding themselves quietly into private homes, seasonal harvests, and domestic rituals that outsiders barely noticed. Some families became custodians of knowledge, passing down fragments of chants, gestures, and symbolic offerings through generations. Genealogies disappear from public records, but whispers of Baal's presence linger in these lineages, subtle, almost invisible, yet powerful. The tension is almost unbearable. The god, supposedly dead, still exercises influence through memory, ritual, and human behavior. Humanity, striving to survive, remains bound to him, the storm's unpredictability, acting as both antagonist and teacher. Baal was never merely a deity to fear or worship. He was the embodiment of uncontrollable forces, storms, fertility, life, and death. Humans became his protagonists, navigating uncertainty and learning the rules of survival through ritual, precision, and obedience. Every chant, every offering, every gesture was a negotiation. Success meant life, failure meant famine or disaster. In this constant negotiation, humans internalized lessons of fear, reverence, and respect. Even when temples crumbled and priests vanished, the rituals endured, sometimes forgotten in name, sometimes obscured in custom, but always present in subtle gestures, symbolic acts, and collective memory. Archaeology tells us the story of Baal's survival in fragments. Bull motifs and lightning symbols carved into homes and gates, far from their original temples. Ritual vessels and ceremonial objects echoing ancient offerings. Harvest festivals and seasonal ceremonies that mimic the timing and choreography of Baal's rites. Each piece alone is a whisper. Together, they form a chorus that reminds us, Baal never fully left. The god's presence migrated from temples to memory, from rituals to cultural habits, and from overt worship to shadowed survival. Humanity carried him forward, even when his name was no longer spoken. Even today, the echoes of Baal persist in ways we rarely recognize. A festival here, a gesture there, a symbol carved into architecture, all are traces of a storm god whose public worship ended millennia ago. The antagonist remains, the storm, the unpredictable force that humans cannot control. The protagonist, humanity, continues to negotiate with it through ritual, tradition, and adaptation. Fear is never fully gone. It has transformed into respect, memory, and behavior. The god who seems dead still shapes lives. His rituals and lessons endure silently, teaching survival, humility, and reverence. Perhaps that is the most terrifying truth of all. A god can live long after his temples crumble, sustained by the very humans who once feared him. Baal's enduring presence is more than symbolic. It is psychological, cultural, and human. Communities internalized obedience to natural forces through structured rites. Fear and reverence created devotion stronger than conscious belief. Even when explicit worship ended, humans continued to enact rituals tied to the same cycles of life and survival. Baal survived because he had taught humanity how to survive itself. And so, Baal remains. Not in temples, not in public texts, not in the minds of those who have forgotten, but in the rituals, the gestures, the cultural memory, and the shadows of human behavior. He is terrifying not because he strikes with lightning today, but because he reminds us that some forces cannot be controlled, some power persists unseen, and some lessons are carried forward long after their origin is forgotten. And when you encounter a symbol carved into stone, a ritual whose origin is lost, or a gesture repeated across centuries, consider this. It may be nothing, or it may be the echo of a storm that refuses to die, carried quietly by those who came before. Some gods never die. They survive in symbols, in rituals, in memory, and in the invisible threads that connect generations. Walk through history carefully. The storm is still here. You just cannot see it yet.